Okay, picture this. You're sitting at your desk. It's this, I don't know, a Tuesday. Maybe it's raining.
Standard gray weather.
Totally.
Yeah.
Your coffee's gone cold. And you close your eyes and you go to your happy place. And that place is you, standing on a terrace in Phuket. The sun is setting, the Andaman Sea is that, perfect turquoise color, and you're holding a cold drink.
Oh, yeah.
Because you own this slice of paradise. I mean, that's the ultimate dream lifestyle, right?
It is. That's a really powerful image. I think that whole tropical owner fantasy is what sells like half the plane tickets to Thailand.
Absolutely. But then if you actually pull the trigger and buy the place, the movie in your head, it tends to change genres.
Yeah, it does.
It goes from a nice travel documentary to like a psychological thriller. You fly back home to London or New York, you land, and suddenly this other thought hits you.
Okay.
You're 6,000 miles away. Who's watering the plants? Is the pool right now turning into some kind of biology experiment?
Is the aircon broken?
Yes. Did the air conditioning just die in a heat wave while you have paying guests staying there?
That is what I like to call the anxiety gap. It's that massive, terrifying space between the dream of owning the villa and the gritty reality of managing it from the other side of the planet.
And that's where the dream dies for a lot of people.
It can, yeah.
Exactly. And today, our mission is to close that gap. We're going to build a bridge over it. We're doing a deep dive into the blueprint for remote management.
We want to figure out how to take this really complex logistical challenge running a house in the tropics and turn it into a hands-off, stress-free investment.
And we are not just guessing here. We're not pulling tips from some generic blog.
No, we are basing this entire deep dive on a blueprint from Ocean Worldwide.
Right. And for anyone who doesn't know, Ocean Worldwide isn't some new startup. They're a luxury real estate agency that's been on the ground in Phuket since 2004.
That's over 2 decades. I mean, that's a lot of market cycles. And specifically, we're looking at insights from their director, Sandra O'Neill.
And she's helped thousands of families.
Thousands of families and property investors navigate this exact maze. So we're getting the wisdom of someone who has seen every possible disaster and, more importantly, knows how to prevent it.
I love that. So the goal here is to go from juggling chainsaws to sipping coconuts.
Ideally, yes.
Yeah.
We're going to cover the human infrastructure you need, the digital tools that act as your eyes and ears.
And the legal stuff.
Oh, yeah. We're going to spend some real time on the legal landscape in Thailand because there are some specific quirks with foreign ownership that you absolutely cannot mess up.
Okay, let's unpack this. First line of defense.
Yeah.
If I'm in Chicago and my villa is in Phuket, obviously I can't fix a leaky faucet myself. I need a property manager.
Right.
But looking at the source material, I feel like my definition of a manager was a bit naive. I was just thinking of a key holder.
That's the mistake most people make. They look for a key holder or rent collector. But what Ocean Worldwide emphasizes is that you're actually looking for peace of mind. You need a team that gets the island's specific quirks. And when I say quirks, I mean the environment.
Like the weather.
We're talking about the tropics. It is aggressive. I mean, things grow incredibly fast, things rust even faster, and when it rains, it really, really pours.
So a key holder who checks the house once a month isn't going to cut it.
No way. In Phuket, during the monsoon, a small gutter blockage can turn your living room into a swimming pool in like 3 days.
So you need someone who knows that before the rain starts.
Precisely. This is why the source puts such a huge premium on tenure. You don't want a manager who just moved to the island last year to find themselves.
Right.
You want someone who's survived 10 rainy seasons. They know that when the wind blows from the west, that patio furniture needs to be tied down or stored.
It's like hiring a captain for a ship. You want the one with the gray hair who's seen the storms.
Exactly. And because this is such a high trust position, you are literally giving them the keys to your most expensive asset. You cannot skip the vetting.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Sandra O'Neill is very clear on this. Check references. Don't just look at the shiny website or their Instagram feed.
Actually talk to people.
Ask for testimonials. Call a past client and ask them, when the AC broke on Christmas Eve, did they pick up the phone?
That's the acid test right there.
It is.
Okay, now let's talk about the menu of services. Because the source breaks this down into tiers, and I think this is where a lot of owners get confused about what they're actually paying for.
Yeah, it's a spectrum. The source basically identifies 3 categories. First up, you've got basic marketing.
What's that?
It's essentially lead generation. They list your property on the booking sites. Maybe they handle the calendar inquiries.
But once the guest lands at Phuket International Airport,
You are on your own. If the guest gets lost or the toilet overflows, They're calling you.
Which, with the time difference, means I'm getting woken up at 3 a.m. in New York.
Yeah, hard pass.
So what's the next step up?
That would be standard management. This usually adds on the coordination of cleaning and some basic checks. It's better, but it still often requires you, the owner, to make the big operational decisions on the fly.
And the third tier. This is the one Ocean Worldwide recommends for overseas owners, I'm guessing?
Yeah, full service. This is the peace of mind package. We're talking marketing, bookings, cleaning, maintenance, repairs, guest support, bill payments.
Everything.
Everything. And the takeaway here is pretty blunt. If you're living thousands of miles away, this isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. You just can't coordinate an emergency plumber in Thai from your office in London.
That makes total sense. You're paying for the privilege of silence. You pay them so you don't hear about the problems. But, and this is a huge but, just because you aren't doing the manual labor doesn't mean you ignore the money. We need to talk about managing the invisible.
This is where it gets really interesting. And frankly, this is where a lot of investors lose money without even realizing it. Financial transparency is just non-negotiable.
The source mentions a concept I like, the financial diary. It sounds very organized.
It's a great way to think about it. You need to track every single penny, not just the big rental checks coming in.
You mean like cleaning fees, utility?
Exactly. Cleaning fees, utility bills, which can be super high with AC repairs, management fees. You have to spot issues before they explode.
So if you see the water bill suddenly spike, you know you might have a leak before the ceiling collapses.
Precisely. Or electricity. Electricity is a major variable in Thailand. If your guests leave the air conditioning on, say, 18 degrees Celsius with the sliding doors open all day.
Oof. Your bill's going to be astronomical.
Right, and a good report flags that immediately.
And the source says the report needs to be more than just a balance. It needs to be granular, total income, total expenses, net profit, and also occupancy rate. Why is that metric so important if the money's good?
Because it's your pricing thermostat. It tells you if your strategy is working. If you're 100% full a year in advance, you might feel popular, but you're probably too cheap.
Ah, interesting. You're leaving money on the table.
A lot of it. Conversely, if you're only 10% full, you're either too expensive or your marketing photos are terrible. You need that data to adjust.
And alongside that, you need a sinking fund. That sounds kind of ominous.
It sounds like a fund for a sinking ship,
Yep.
right? But it's actually what keeps the ship afloat. It's a safety net. It's just a pot of money set aside for the unexpected.
Like what?
Storm damage, a broken pump, or just routine upgrades to keep the furniture looking fresh.
But why can't I just wire the money when something breaks?
Speed. International wires take days. If the water pump blows on a Friday night with guests in the villa, you cannot wait until Tuesday for the funds to clear. The sinking fund means the manager can just say, fix it now, and settle the books with you later. It turns a disaster into a simple transaction.
It shifts the mindset from, oh no, to, okay, handle it.
Yeah.
I like that. Now let's talk tech. The source explicitly warns against using a spiral notebook for bookings.
Oh God, please throw away the spiral notebook. Manual management is just a recipe for disaster.
What's the biggest risk?
Double bookings. Just imagine a family arriving from Sweden. They're tired, jet-lagged, the kids are crying, only to find another family already in the villa because you forgot to update a spreadsheet.
That is the absolute nightmare scenario.
Totally avoidable. You need real-time availability calendars, booking systems that sync across Airbnb, Booking.com, all of it.
And what about remote eyes? That's the security stuff.
Yes. Cameras and smart locks. Now, obviously, privacy is paramount, never inside the living space.
Of course.
But a camera on the driveway or the main gate, invaluable. You can see if there are suddenly 10 cars parked outside when there should only be 2 guests.
It helps you enforce the rules from afar. Hey, looks like you're having a party.
Exactly. It keeps everyone honest.
Okay, so we have the manager, the money, the tech. But as the source says, managing from afar can feel like juggling chainsaws if you try to do it alone. You need a village.
You really do. You need a local support network, a Rolodex of specific, trusted contacts.
So who's on this list?
Well, the obvious one is cleaners. Consistency is key there. But in Phuket specifically, you need a pool doctor and a garden artist.
Garden artist sounds a little fancy.
Well, in the tropics, a garden isn't a static thing. It's an exploding jungle. If you don't cut it back aggressively, it literally consumes the view.
Right.
And the pool, the sun just eats chlorine. If the chemical balance is off for 2 days, you have a green swamp.
And nobody wants to swim in a swamp. Got it. Now here's an unexpected ally the source mentions, the real estate agent.
This is such a pro tip. Most people buy the house and then say goodbye to their agent. That's a huge mistake.
Why?
An agency like Ocean Worldwide, they know everyone. They're a goldmine of connections. If you need a lawyer, a contractor, or help navigating some local contract, they have likely vetted these people for years.
So keep them close. They're your bridge to the local ecosystem.
Precisely. They want you to succeed so you'll buy another property or refer a friend. You should use that relationship.
And one more thing on the Village Idea community integration. The source suggests that when you're in town, you should actually participate in local events.
Yeah, don't just hide behind the gate.
Right. Meet the neighbors, go to the community fair. It builds relationships.
If the neighbors know you, they're way more likely to keep an eye on your place or let you know if something seems off. It stops you from being just a faceless, absentee owner.
I love that. It makes it a home, not just an asset. Okay, let's pivot to standards and guest experience. Because if the guests aren't happy, none of this works.
Right.
How do you even define good?
You can't just say, keep it clean. I mean, your definition of clean and someone else's might be worlds apart. You need detailed checklists. Specify linen changes. Specify how the garden should look.
And the source suggests getting an independent inspection, a health check.
Yes, once a year. Have someone who isn't your regular manager go in and give you an unbiased view. Are the cushions fading? Is there salt air corrosion on the window frames?
Salt air corrosion, that's the hidden enemy, isn't it?
It eats everything. Exterior surfaces, electronics, you name it. And it all ties back to preventative maintenance. In Phuket, AC servicing is just non-negotiable.
So professional checks annually?
At least.
Right.
And filter cleaning monthly. Because if the AC breaks in April...
You get bad reviews. Instantly. It's the hottest time of the year. Guest comfort is directly tied to the technical health of the property.
Exactly. And communication plays a huge role here, too. The source talks about the sweet spot for response times.
Speed is everything.
For an email, 12 to 24 hours is okay. But for a phone message, 1 to 2 hours max. You have to be responsive.
And it's also about tone, right?
Yeah. Balancing professional with friendly. You want them to feel like they're staying with a friend even though it's a business transaction.
A friend who replies really, really fast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And don't forget the welcome. A personal greeting, showing them how the villa works.
Yeah.
That sets the tone for the entire stay.
Okay, now we need to get serious. The source calls this the deep dive into legalities, the unglamorous reality.
Look, it's the boring stuff that keeps you out of jail and keeps your investments safe.
Let's start with the rules. Zoning, codes, taxes.
First, zoning and codes. You have to make sure your property is actually legal for holiday lets. Not every building or zone allows short-term rentals.
Right.
Then there's licensing. Short-term rentals often need specific permits, and taxes, you just can't ignore them.
The tax man cometh, even in paradise.
Especially in paradise. There's income tax on rental earnings and often specific fees like land and building tax. You need a transparent accountant for that.
And contracts. I feel like get it in writing is the motto here.
Well drafted is the phrase the source uses. Contracts for rentals, for management, for service providers. If it's not in the contract, it basically doesn't exist.
Okay, now this is the part I found most confusing. Foreign ownership models. I know Thailand has very specific rules about foreigners owning land. Could you break down freehold versus leasehold?
Yeah, this is the #1 question Ocean Worldwide gets asked. Let's simplify it. First, freehold condominiums.
This is where you own it outright.
Yes. A foreigner can have their name on the title deed of a condo unit, just like in the West. However, there's a big catch. It's called the foreign quota.
Okay.
In any single condo building, only 49% of the total floor space can be owned by foreigners.
So if the building is already at 49% foreign ownership, I can't buy a unit freehold.
Correct. You'd have to look elsewhere, or consider a leasehold structure in that building. But generally, for a condo, freehold is the most straightforward ownership.
Okay, what about villas? Everyone wants the villa with the pool. Can I own that land?
Generally, no. Foreigners cannot own land directly in Thailand. So for a villa, the solution is almost always a leasehold.
So you're leasing the land.
You own the building, the bricks, the mortar, the swimming pool, but you sign a long-term lease for the land it sits on. Typically, this is a 30-year lease, which gets registered with the land department.
I gotta be honest, 30 years doesn't seem that long. If I'm spending $500,000, I'd want to pass it to my kids.
I hear that a lot. But it's important to understand these leases almost always have renewal clauses. So you might see a structure that's 30 years, plus options to renew for another 30 and another 30.
Ah, okay.
It's a very common, legally recognized way for foreigners to own villas. It gives you long-term rights and security as long as the contract is written correctly.
And there was a third option, something about a Thai company.
Yes, owning through a Thai company structure. But the source notes this is complex, it requires serious legal guidance, and it's less straightforward than the other two. It means annual audits, strict compliance.
So the key takeaway here seems to be, don't DIY the legal stuff.
Absolutely not. Do not try to save money on a lawyer. Sandra O'Neill emphasizes this constantly. Get the structure right at the very beginning, and the rest is easy. Get it wrong, and it's a headache forever.
So looking at the big picture, we've gone from finding a manager to navigating 30-year leases. It feels like a lot of moving parts.
It is work, but it all comes back to that core philosophy from Ocean Worldwide. Proactive management versus reactive panic.
I like that. Reactive panic sounds expensive.
It is. It's all about systems, people, and legal compliance. Keeping the property in good nick isn't just vanity. It's about preserving the asset's value. And, guest happiness equals income.
And speaking of income and value, we should definitely remind our listeners where this wisdom came from. This whole deep dive was based on expertise from Ocean Worldwide and their director, Sandra O'Neill.
Right. And remember, they've been doing this in Phuket since 2004. That's a huge amount of local knowledge. They have helped thousands of people figure this out.
So if you're sitting there thinking, I need this kind of help, or you just want to see what kind of villas are actually on the market, you can head over to oceanwwp.com. That's oceanwwp.com.
Definitely worth a look if you want expert advice or you're looking to list a property.
So we'll leave you with this final thought. We started with the dream of paradise, and we've learned that owning paradise is definitely possible. But the real question is, are you going to treat it like a hobby, or are you going to treat it like a business?
Because the difference between a dream and a nightmare is often just a 30-year lease and a really good property manager.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.